Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to today's online meeting. I am by name Babatunde Samuel, and today we'll be discussing the introduction to basic science. Now, you're asking yourself that what is basic science? Now, basic science is an aspect of science that teaches you that's the very fundamental things or knowledge you need to know in science before moving to your senior secondary school, where you'll be enlightened on the various aspects of science, which include the physics, the chemistry, and the biology. So basic science is just an aspect of science in the junior secondary school that shows you the various aspects, various knowledge you need to know, the things you need to know or get. That is the foundation of science before moving to the senior secondary school. So now we're moving to the topic for today, which is Introduction to Basic Science. Now, before we start the introduction to basic science, I would like to give us an understanding or a knowledge of what science itself is all about. You need to understand what science means before you go into the basic science. Now, science can be defined as the knowledge obtained by observation and testing of facts. Listen again. Science can be defined as the knowledge obtained by observation and testing of facts. Now, I want you to understand that by you observing things, okay, let me give you an instance. Like, okay, you putting a paper in water, or let me say a cloth in water or rubber in water, and the rubber itself floats. It's an observation. Now, testing of facts is like what are the possibilities, that what made it possible for this to float in water. That's the testing of the facts now. So the combination of this observation and the testing of your facts make up the science. That's why it's called the knowledge obtained by observation and testing of facts. You can't just come up one day and say and tell us something and expect us to believe without it being proved. That's science for you. So science is like giving an idea or giving a theory and then backing up your theory with proof. It can also be about the structure and behavior of natural and physical world based on the fact that can be proved, such as an experiment. Like I said, a, any theory you give without a proof is not accepted in science. So science is all about what? Proof. You see, it's all about the structure and behavior of natural and physical world based on facts that can be proved, such as an experiment. Now, I know very well that you've been hearing of experiments here and the experiment, people carrying out experiment. Yeah, the main aim of this experiment is to provide proof to lay down theories. Now, back then, our first scientists then, they do give us many theories, many laws, but then this law or this theory has not been proved. So now these recent scientists now they come up with experiments to prove these theories, to validate this theory and make sure that it is well accepted in science. Now we say a person who studies one or more of the natural science is called a scientist. It's called a scientist. Now once you involve yourself, once you are involved in the study of one or more natural sciences, once you are involved in experiments, once you begin to experiment things, once you begin to carry out experiment in order to prove these theories, in order to prove these laws, in order to discover new things in science, you are regarded as what? As a scientist. You're not referred to as a scientist. So scientists are those people that involve themselves in all this form of experiments, trying to make new discoveries every day. Now, moving on to the main topic for today, which is basic science. We just discussed, I just give an introduction of what science is all about. Now, basic science. Before we go into basic science, I want you to understand the word basic. Now, basic refers to something that is necessary and most important. When you hear basic, it means something that is fundamental, something that is very necessary and important. That's what basic is. Now, combining basic and science, we have basic science. Now, basic science as an integrated science course is a subject that deals with study of living and non-living things. Study of what? Living and non-living things. It also combines all other subjects such as the physics, the biology, the health science, agricultural science. Remember, initially I told you that basic science is a science subject that has been introduced to the junior secondary school to give you a foresight, to give you like a foundation of what you're going to be facing in the senior secondary school. It will enable you to have knowledge on the aspect of science, so that by the time you get to your senior secondary school, you won't be the science courses won't be strange to you. Science courses like physics that relates matter with energy, science and courses like biology that deals mainly with plant and animals, and then health science and agricultural science. All these are various aspects of sciences. So basic science covers all this and give you a broad knowledge. It gives you like a general understanding, foundation of all these courses. So that by the time you are exposed to these courses now, it won't look strange to you. That's the importance of basic science being the subject that deals with what living and non-living things. You as a person, you're a living thing. So basic science is actually talking about you. Your environment also is a non-living things. It's also talking about your environment, the weather, the climates, everything around you. So you see that basic science is actually an interesting subject that that looks into man and his environment. Now we have the scope of basic science. From our definition, we say basic science is an integrated science course that deals with the study of what living and non-living things. Now, definitely, when you want to talk about the scope of basic science, the first thing that should come to your mind is what the living things and the non-living things. When you talk about scope, scope means area, like area of study, area of concern, where we are concerned about. That's the scope. That's what scope is all about. So the area of concern of basic science is what it's about the living and the non-living things. Now, the living things are those things that possess life. Things that possess life are living things. Like you, I, we are living things. A man, an elephant, as well as plants. Plants are living things. I know you'll be doubting yourself that, how will plants be a living thing? But I want you to know today that plants are living things because they possess the various characteristics of living things. And these characteristics of living things, we're going to be discussing them in our further classes to throw more light on these characteristics of living things that will prove to you that plants are living things just as we are living things and other animals are living things. Then non-living things, like I said, living things are things that possess life. Now, non-living things are those things that do not have or possess life. It's just the opposite of living things. Non-living things are those things that do not have or possess life. For example, biro, the stones, the chalk, various things, your books, even your pencil, they do not have life. So we regard them as what? Non-living things because they do not possess life. They do not possess any characteristics of living things at all. They cannot move, they cannot reproduce, they cannot respire, they cannot undergo excretion, and so on. Those characteristics of living things, they do not exhibit these characteristics. So we refer to them as non-living things. Now, when you look at this now, you see that this basic science now, taking into consideration the living things and the non-living things, you see that it's trying to relate the living things, that's we now, the man, the plants, the animals, and how like they relate also with the non-living things around them, which are the climates, the the land, everything around us. So that is the scope of non of basic science, which is the living and the non-living thing. So now we move to the group of living things. Now I told you that living things can either be what plants or animals. So living things are divided into two groups, which are the plants and the animals. The plants and animals. Now when you look at the plants, example of plants are we have the mango, the pawpaw, the watermelon, melon itself, the guava, the cashew, all these are plants, and they are what? They are living things because they respire. They exhibit the various characteristics of living things. They can reproduce, they can undergo respiration, excretion, like they have these characteristics that living things exhibit. If you compare plants to animals, you will see that plants exhibit even most of the characteristics that animal exhibit. The only thing is that plants don't move like how animals do move. Plants don't move. So that's like one of the major difference between plants and animals, their movements. Plants do not move, but animals do move. But then, if you look at other characteristics that animal exhibits, you'll notice that even plants exhibit them. You pick up a seed and put it in the ground and cover it, and then give it some days before you know what this seed begin to germinate. That's what reproduction. Likewise, animals reproduce like how me and you now have been giving birth to by our parents. Reproduction. Plants undergo reproduction. Then now animals, me, you, the goats, the lion, we are all animals. All of us are animals. So, and we belong to a group of living things. So the two groups of living things that we have are the plants and the animals. The plants and the animals. Okay. So here is the assignment for today, which is a very simple assignment, and I believe every one of you will participate in this assignment and do according to the instruction. Now, number one says, what is basic science? Now, I want you in your own word and in your own further research to go and find out about more meaning of basic science, and then you let us see what you get. And then number two is, what are living and non-living things? Now, I want you to explain what living things are and also what are non-living things. And then you give me 5 examples each of living and non-living things. That's the examples you'll be giving me now are those that are not included in this lesson. That's the ones I didn't give you. So you sort out new examples and give. So briefly now, I've done a recap of the lecture of what we just discussed. So introduction to basic science. We started with the definition of science, which says science can be defined as the knowledge obtained by observation and testing of facts. Remember, I told you that observation alone is not science. After making your observation, after dropping the theories and the laws, you have to prove them. You have to test this thing, test them. If they are real, you test the facts, and that's where what experiments come into play. The act of testing these facts is what we call the experiment. That's where the experiments come into play. So you carry out experiments to prove your words, to prove your theory. This is when it becomes science. And we say people who study one or more natural science, people who carry out these experiments in order to prove laws and theories are known as scientists. Likewise, I can be a scientist, you can be a scientist in as much as you follow the procedure involved in science. Then we discussed about the basic science, where I told you that basic science is an integrated science course. That deals with the study of the living and non-living things. Basic science is a course that gives you an understanding, knowledge of the science courses you're going to be doing in the senior secondary school, which are the physics, your biology, your chemistry, your health science, agricultural science. And then we talk about the scope of basic science, which include the living and the non-living things. Living things are those things that possess life, and non-living things are those things that do not possess life. And I gave you some examples, and we say the group of living things. Now, how living things are grouped? Living things are grouped into two, which are the plants and animals. And I gave you some reason why plants are regarded as living thing, because I know you'll be doubting, like, oh, why will plants be a living thing? Plants are actually living things. When our further lesson or in our further discussion, we'll be looking at some of the reasons why plants are regarded as living things and why animals also are regarded as living things. And also, we'll try to look at the differences between plants and animals. So, thank you for listening to and for being part of today's lecture. And don't forget your assignments Number one, what is basic science? And number two, what are living and non-living things? And give 5 examples each. Thank you very much. Please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us more for more updates on our online lectures. Thank you very much.